Welcome back to the deep dive. Um, Today let's talk about how you make your biggest decisions.
Okay.
Because if you think about it, if you are buying a house, for example,
Oh, yeah.
there's this universal expectation of, rigorous inspection.
Right. You bring in contractors.
Yeah, exactly.
Mm.
You check the foundation for cracks. You bring a flashlight to look for, hidden water damage in the basement.
Mm-hmm.
You would never just look at a freshly painted front door, shrug, and hand over your life savings.
No, I mean, that would be financial suicide. You approach a commitment like that with your eyes wide open because the stakes are incredibly high and the consequences of a bad choice will basically haunt you for decades.
Right, it's just practical. But then you step into the realm of romantic love, and suddenly we are culturally conditioned to just throw away the clipboard.
Yeah.
We are told to close our eyes and leap. Like, we use language like falling in love
Right.
as if it's an accident.
Yeah, like you tripped.
Yeah. We are told that love is blind, that the heart simply wants what it wants,
Yeah.
and that overthinking it will somehow, ruin the magic.
Well, we essentially romanticize the idea of abandoning our judgment.
Mm-hmm.
We treat clear thinking as if it's the enemy of passion.
Yeah.
And that actually brings us to the core of what we are unpacking today, drawing from some profound excerpts in a work titled Love with Its Eyes Open.
Yes.
The overarching mission here is to totally dismantle that terrible, though very popular advice about romance.
So true.
We're replacing the myth of blind love with the reality that applying your intellect and, your standards doesn't ruin the romance.
Right.
It is actually the only way to make a lasting romance possible.
Okay, let's unpack this because I struggled with this concept at first. It feels so contrary to every movie and song we grew up with.
Oh, totally.
But when you start to break it down, refusing to understand love, keeping it this untouched mystical force, is exactly what causes us to lose the ability to distinguish actual love from all the toxic dynamics that imitate it.
That distinction is exactly where we have to start. Because if we aren't magically falling into love,
Right.
we have to define what that initial spark actually is.
That very first step.
Right, attraction. And attraction is automatic.
Mm-hmm.
You can't always articulate why it's happening. A certain facial structure catches your eye, a particular cadence in a voice stays in your head, or maybe you are drawn to the specific way someone carries themselves across a room.
So the subconscious matching game, right?
Pretty much.
Yeah. You are responding to physical preferences or biological cues or even micro-evaluations you've been forming since childhood.
Yes.
And some of those underlying causes for your attraction might be really sound and healthy, and some of them might be totally neurotic.
Exactly. And the crucial takeaway is understanding what that spark actually signifies.
Okay.
The existence of intense attraction proves only one thing.
Which is?
That you are attracted. It tells you a lot about your own internal wiring in that exact moment. What it does not do is establish what is fundamentally true about the character of the other person.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, attraction is an invitation to discover what first caught your attention. It is not a verdict on their soul.
That makes me think of a movie trailer.
Okay. Yeah.
Like, initial attraction is just the 2-minute teaser.
Right.
It casts, it's flashy, it grabs your attention, it hits you with the best lighting and a great soundtrack. You're captivated.
Mm-hmm.
But admiration, which is what sustains love, that is the actual 2-hour film.
That's a great way to put it.
Yeah, you have to stay in the theater, watch the plot unfold, and see if the story actually holds together. Does the full character match the hype of that initial trailer?
Yes, and that evaporation of interest that happens so often in dating is precisely because character is a time release concept.
Oh, a time release concept.
Yeah, you don't know someone's stance on honesty until it becomes deeply inconvenient for them to tell the truth. You don't know their capacity for emotional regulation until they are profoundly disappointed. You're waiting to see if the person you are getting to know actually aligns with the person they first appeared to be.
Oh.
As the text says, attraction opens the door, but admiration gives you a reason to stay.
Admiration gives you a reason to stay. That implies you are actively evaluating them over time.
Yes.
And if admiration requires observing character, well, we are stepping into highly controversial territory for a lot of people.
Oh, for sure.
We have to talk about having conditions in love.
The cultural holy grail of unconditional love.
Exactly. And this part of the material really challenged me. We're almost universally taught that the highest, most pure form of love is unconditional.
Right.
But the reality of literal unconditional love is actually incredibly dark when you play it out to its logical conclusion.
It is. Because when most people use the word unconditional, they usually mean something generous and steadfast.
Right.
They mean, I won't abandon you if you get sick or if you lose your job.
Or if we hit a hard season.
Exactly. And that is a beautiful, necessary expression of commitment. But literal, absolute, unconditional love,
Yeah.
that asks us to remove the very standards that make love meaningful in the first place.
Because if nothing could ever change your judgment of a person, then honesty and deception get the exact same response from you.
Exactly. Loyalty and betrayal would become emotionally equal.
Wow.
If your love is truly unconditional, then your partner's character, their personal growth, their cruelty, or their total indifference to your pain would make absolutely no difference to your devotion.
It sounds miserable.
Right. You would be pledging yourself to a static entity. Love would no longer be connected to who the person actually is in reality. What's fascinating here is that love cannot make character irrelevant.
But let me play devil's advocate for a second, though.
Sure.
Isn't love supposed to be a safe harbor of forgiveness? Like when we talk about having standards and constantly evaluating a partner's character, it can sound a bit cold.
Okay, I see that.
It risks sounding like you are giving your partner a corporate performance review every quarter.
Right, but having standards doesn't mean you are grading them on a clipboard, looking for an excuse to fire them.
Okay.
It's more like gravity.
Gravity.
Your partner's integrity, their kindness, their effort, that is the gravity that keeps you grounded to them. If they systematically remove those things, you naturally drift away.
Oh, I see.
Standards are not the enemy of devotion. They are what keep devotion attached to something worthy.
Right.
Having standards doesn't mean withdrawing affection over a minor disagreement or a bad mood. Healthy love obviously has massive room for patience, for correction, and for forgiveness.
But there is a massive caveat to that forgiveness.
Huge caveat. Forgiveness must remain attached to judgment.
Right.
It has value only when the wrongdoing is honestly acknowledged and the behavior is corrected. It is not a free pass for destructive behavior to continue on a loop.
So an apology only matters when the person accepts responsibility and actually changes the dynamic.
Exactly. Repeated betrayal followed by repeated tearful apologies is not evidence of growth or deep passion.
Yeah.
It is evidence of a pattern.
Right. So saying love is earned doesn't mean affection is this transactional currency. It means your partner continually gives you reasons to love them through the qualities they possess and the choices they make day after day.
Yes.
Romantic love matters precisely because it is highly selective. You don't give the deepest, most vulnerable part of yourself to someone indiscriminately just because they demand it.
Which leads to the question of what we are actually selecting for.
Right.
If we are applying these standards and we've established that the physical spark, the movie trailer, isn't enough to build a home around, what are the load-bearing walls of a relationship?
Well, we can't discount the physical spark.
Mm-hmm.
The physical attraction, the touch, the sexual passion, that is what distinguishes a romantic relationship from a really great friendship or a roommate situation.
Oh, absolutely.
You cannot manufacture romance just out of a sense of duty because someone looks good on paper. You need that desire.
Physical beauty and sexual chemistry create incredible excitement, but they cannot compensate indefinitely for dishonesty or cruelty or a fundamental emotional emptiness.
Right. Intensity can mimic intimacy in the short term,
Yes.
but it tells you very little about whether you can actually build a life with this person.
The richest, most enduring romance unites the physical and the personal. You desire the person you admire, and you admire the person you desire.
So what does this all mean? This kind of flipped standard advice on its head for me, because we spend so much time looking for someone with our exact same personality.
Oh, yeah. People are obsessed with that.
Right. But it's not about finding your clone. Like an artist can absolutely love a structural engineer.
Sure.
A massive extrovert can be deeply in love with an introvert who hates parties.
Yeah.
Differences actually create balance.
Relationships are rarely destroyed because two people prefer different genres of music or have different weekend hobbies. Shared interests can fill Saturday afternoon. Shared values carry a relationship through decades. Foundational principles are what matter. How do you both view money? How do you view effort or truth or independence?
And there is one specific value that gets a massive spotlight here, and it's one we rarely associate with romance, which is productive purpose.
Yes.
Having your own meaningful work or direction in life.
And this is so much deeper than a career compatibility check. Productive purpose is the core source of independence and self-esteem in a human life. It is the engine of your identity.
Which means you desperately need your own life before you attempt to merge it with someone else's.
Exactly.
Why does a lack of purpose destroy love over time?
Well, if you do not have your own direction, your own goals, or your own source of self-worth, you inevitably place that burden on your partner.
Right.
You expect them to be your entire identity. You aren't bringing a complete self-sustaining self to the relationship. You are bringing a void.
A void.
And you are asking your partner to fill it. That creates a dynamic where you become a dependent rather than an equal. It places an unbearable, suffocating weight on the other person to be the sole provider of your meaning.
It's the difference between two independent people standing in reality, looking outward, and choosing to meet the world together, versus two people hiding from life by crawling inside each other.
That's a great visual. A great romance is strength recognizing strength.
But if we know that to be true, if standards, shared values, and mutual independence are so obviously essential, we have to ask why so many people willingly compromise on them.
Yeah.
Why do intelligent people accept crumbs and call it commitment?
It all comes back to the mirror of self-respect.
Right. The quality of love you are prepared to accept is a direct reflection of the value you place on your own life. It comes down to your self-esteem, which is essentially the internal conviction that you are fundamentally worthy of happiness.
And when that self-esteem is fractured or weak, our psychological translation of reality gets completely warped. We start misinterpreting red flags as grand romantic gestures.
This is where we need to explain the mechanics of that because it's fascinating. How does a lack of self-respect make toxic behavior look appealing?
Well, think about it this way. If you fundamentally do not believe you are worthy and you carry a deep-seated insecurity, a partner's extreme, suffocating dependency can actually feel validating at first.
Interesting.
You mistake their desperate need for you as love because it temporarily soothes your own fear of abandonment. You think, well, if they need me this badly to survive, they won't leave me.
Or when control sounds like protection.
Yes.
If you fear autonomy, having a partner dictate your choices feels safe, you might tolerate blatant mistreatment simply because the prospect of being alone seems far more terrifying than remaining unhappy.
Right.
You cling to a destructive dynamic because you don't believe you have the capacity to create anything better.
If you do not believe your own happiness matters, you will not enforce the standards that happiness requires. You will allow guilt or fear or the pressure of societal timelines to make your romantic decisions for you.
Yeah.
A genuinely loving partner should be a profound value in your life, not an open wound you are constantly expected to manage and protect. A healthy relationship should never require you to become smaller, less ambitious, or less tethered to reality just to maintain the other person's comfort.
You shouldn't have to abandon your mind to keep the peace.
Never.
But even if we establish this baseline, right, even if you have two people with massive self-respect, shared values, and deep admiration, they are not clones.
Yeah.
They are going to clash. They will misunderstand each other.
Inevitably.
So how does this philosophy of clear thinking survive the adrenaline of a screaming match over a maxed out credit card or an ambiguous text from an ex? Because when the fight happens, the logic usually goes right out the window.
Right, and it requires making a critical distinction between psychological reality and factual reality.
Okay, break down the difference.
When a conflict arises, your emotions are going to run incredibly high. And an emotion is psychologically real. You are truly experiencing the physical sensation of it. Your heart is racing, your chest is tight. But the presence of an intense emotion is not evidence that the interpretation producing it is factually correct.
So just because you feel it doesn't mean your brain's narrative about it is true.
Exactly. Let's look at jealousy. If you feel jealousy, the psychological reality is that you are experiencing fear.
Right.
That fear is real and valid. But feeling jealous does not actually prove that a betrayal has occurred in factual reality.
That is such a key difference.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, anger reveals that you perceive a threat to something you value. But your anger does not prove that an objective injustice actually took place. Feeling guilty does not inherently prove you did something wrong. It might just mean you violated a lingering childhood expectation. The emotion tells you that something significant is happening within your own mind. But reason must step in to determine what is actually happening in reality.
Reason doesn't exist to push emotion out of love. That's a common misconception. Reason protects what the emotion is actually trying to signal.
Right.
By identifying the real root cause, a couple can address the actual problem instead of exhausting themselves fighting a phantom.
And the goal of navigating that conflict shouldn't be to see who can win a debate or outmaneuver the other person. The goal is to discover what is true and what is just, which brings up a vital point about fairness and conflict.
Okay.
Fairness does not mean manufacturing symmetry.
Meaning love doesn't require us to pretend that both people are equally at fault 50-50 every single time something goes wrong.
Right.
Sometimes, yes, it's a miscommunication where both contributed.
Right.
But sometimes one person just completely dropped the ball. One person was objectively wrong.
Yes. A robust, healthy relationship has to be capable of housing both the words "I was wrong" and, when the factual evidence supports it, "you were wrong here."
Mm-hmm.
Honest correction is necessary for love to survive. A relationship cannot remain loving when one person's peace of mind always requires the other person's surrender of reality.
We've covered a tremendous amount of theoretical ground today. We've dismantled the myth of blind love, explored why standards create devotion, highlighted the necessity of productive purpose, and examined how self-respect dictates what we tolerate.
We really have.
So to bring this from the theoretical into the everyday, we're each going to highlight one critical concept from our research today and give you, learner, a highly practical way to integrate it into your life immediately.
I think bridging that gap between theory and practice is where the real value lies.
Yeah.
So what is your integration?
My focus is on the concept that a person's stated values are merely claims, while their behavior supplies the actual evidence. We touched on this with the movie trailer analogy. So my practical integration for the listener is to conduct a claims versus evidence audit in your romantic life.
How does one conduct that audit without turning into an interrogator?
Well, it is an internal exercise, and it requires radical honesty with yourself.
Okay.
Think about your current partner, or if you are single, someone you are actively dating. We often fall in love with potential or with the poetic words someone uses to describe themselves. We hear them claim they value honesty or ambition or deep loyalty.
Right.
Stop listening to the claims for a moment. Do an audit of the last 7 days, just 1 week. Look at the hard evidence of their daily behavior.
Mm-hmm.
When the truth became slightly inconvenient on Tuesday, what did they do? When hard work was required on Thursday, did they step up or deflect blame? Compare the brochure they hand you with the reality of how they operate. Does the evidence support the claim?
That is a phenomenal tool because it cuts straight through the romantic fog. It forces you to interact with the person who actually exists rather than the avatar of them you've created in your head.
Exactly. It grounds you in reality. What is your practical integration?
My choice focuses entirely on the conflict resolution piece.
Yeah.
Specifically, the concept that an emotion is real, but it is not evidence that your interpretation is correct. My practical application is a technique we can call pause and separate.
Pause and separate. Walk us through it.
The next time you feel a massive, overwhelming surge of intense emotion during an argument with your partner, maybe it's a spike of defensive rage or a wave of intense hurt, you must hit pause.
Okay.
Before you speak, before you launch an accusation, you force a wedge between your feeling and your reaction by asking yourself 2 distinct questions.
All right. What's question 1?
Question 1, what am I feeling right now in my body? This validates your psychological reality. You admit to yourself, I'm feeling terrified, or I am feeling entirely dismissed.
So you acknowledge the internal state without acting on it. And question 2.
Question 2 forces reason into the driver's seat. What actually happened in factual reality to trigger this?
Wow. Okay.
Did your partner actually say your career doesn't matter? Or did they just ask if you could put your laptop away during dinner? Did they betray your trust? Or did they simply mention a coworker's name in passing?
That's huge.
This separation stops you from acting on your worst-case scenario interpretation before you verify the facts. It is a circuit breaker for spiraling arguments, keeping the two of you from turning into adversaries over a ghost.
Validate the emotion, but verify the facts. What am I feeling? Versus what actually happened. That is incredibly actionable. It protects the relationship from unnecessary collateral damage.
Because lasting intimacy relies on that exact kind of clear-headed navigation.
Let's bring this all together. The central beating heart of everything we've explored today is that love is not merely an accident that happens to you. It's not a virus you catch on a Tuesday afternoon.
No, it's not.
A lasting, intimate, powerful love is a monumental achievement. It is a structure that 2 independent people build continuously, day after day, choice after choice, with their eyes wide open.
It demands ongoing character, ongoing honesty, and an ongoing commitment to reality.
Yeah.
Neither person can just command a great romance into existence through sheer willpower, but they both hold the responsibility to create and maintain the conditions for it to thrive.
It is not less romantic because it makes logical sense. It is infinitely more enduring precisely because it is grounded in reality.
Mhm.
And that brings me to a final thought I want to leave you with, learner. Something to chew on that builds on the foundation of everything we've unpacked today.
Let's hear it.
Think back to our opening metaphor about buying and inspecting a house. You don't just wander into the woods and stumble upon the perfect, indestructible home by sheer destiny.
No.
You have to find a solid foundation, you have to build the walls, and you have to maintain the roof against the weather.
Yeah.
If a great romantic love is truly an ongoing achievement, built deliberately by two independent people through conscious choices, shared values, and clear thinking, does that mean our entire cultural obsession with finding the one or searching for a soulmate is completely backwards?
That's a great question.
Maybe soulmates aren't found by destiny. Maybe they are intentionally forged, day by day, over decades. Thank you for joining us on this deep dive. Keep your curiosity alive, keep your standards high, and we'll see you on the next one.